everybody, this is Alex of Dig Primal here again today. Today we're going to be talking about the tale of chronic sugar intake, quercetin, and flavonoids. Now real quick, I wanted to apologize for my voice today. I'm just a little bit sick, but we're going to have a great video, so let's talk about it. So, truth time, I used to be a huge Swedish Fish fan, and I also really like the Sour Patch Kids, but the Swedish Fish are basically the red ones without the sour stuff on top. So I used to love them. I used to go to the library during medical school and go through bags of these while I studied. So I am definitely not, in the perfect person when it comes to sugar intake, but I'm glad that I have rethought my ways, and I'm especially glad now that I know what chronic high sugar intake can do. And so today, that's what I want to talk about. Basically the physiology of what happens when you chronically eat a lot of sugar. And then I'm going to offer some solutions in terms of what you can do to help offset some of the damage, because even if you're doing the right thing now, it can sometimes feel like, well, I did all of this stuff in the past and I'm concerned about it. But I like to give people an action plan of things that they can do to change and get better from it. So there's going to be a little bit of anatomy here. So first, I'm going to draw a little person. Whoop. Doesn't really matter what it looks like. Obviously, I'm not an artist. So basically here is the esophagus where we eat. Then here is our stomach, goes like this. And then after that starts the small intestines, which basically winds all around our intestines and then connects over to the large intestine all the way through. So we are actually going to be focusing on the lining of this part right here. So let's try. So we're in the small intestine, and here's where our food is going through, and we're going to be looking at the cells lining called the endothelium of the intestines. So they actually have an orientation to them because the side matters. So this side is called the apical side, and this side is called the basolateral. And this is just going to matter a little bit down the road when we're talking about receptors. So that's how they're oriented, and obviously there's some on this side, and on this side here's the apical. Apical just means that they're oriented towards the inside of the gut lumen. So what happens when you normally eat sugar? Let me draw my little Swedish fish here that I'm eating. There he goes. Alright, so you eat, let's say you eat a pound of these. No, I'm not joking. I'm pretty sure I have done this at some point. So what happens at the side, at the endothelial cells normally, let's say you just did this, or sorry, let's go back. Let's say you just had one. So you have a little bit of sugar in the lumen of your intestine, and lumen just means the inside. So what happens when your body is trying to absorb the sugar is that there's a receptor on the apical side of the membrane, and a receptor is just a way for molecules to go from the gut and into the bloodstream. Alright, so this receptor, when there's just a little bit of sugar around, is called the sodium-dependent glucose transporter 1. And this is an active transport. So when we talk about active transport, that's what the sodium, that's what this S stands for. It need just to absorb, let's say 1 part sugar, 1 molecule of sugar, you're going to use one sodium. And this is a lot of the energy reactions in the body that happen require sodium and potassium, magnesium, and all of those things. That's why we talk so much about nutrient intake. But it basically, this, just to absorb a little bit of sugar, you need this transporter, which uses active transport, and basically the sodium acts like a doorman. It's saying, okay, I'm here, so you can come in. Now, let's say, now this is when we're going to talk about eating lots of Swedish fish. So you've had a very high amount of sugar entering, so lots of sugar. All right, so you have your cells again, and you have your SGLT1 here working like it's supposed to, and that's great. But what happens when you have tons of sugar around is there's usually receptors on the basolateral side of the cell on this bottom part, and this receptor is called Glute 2. That's glucose transporter type 2. So there's different types all over the body, but at the level of the intestines, it's called Glute 2. So what happens when there's lots of sugar is this receptor actually gets moved up to the apical side. So we're going to use this cell right here, and this is Glute 2. And Glute 2 is not an active transport. Glute 2 just says, oh my gosh, we have so much sugar, you can just come on in. And it just diffuses the sugar all the way in. So what you're doing when you have a ton of sugar, when you eat a lot, is actually easier for your body to absorb it because it just says, we got to get this in. All right, so that's the bad part. And then when you have your Swedish fish, and then you have lots of it, and it's chronic, these receptors that were on the bottom, the Glute 2, actually permanently get put up into the apical side of the membrane. So anytime you eat sugar, the sugar's just going to get absorbed into your bloodstream. All right, so we can tell that's kind of a problem. And the thing is, your body is not really fooled by artificial sugar. Sorry, it's hard to write and talk. Sometimes I forget. So artificial sugar also has this phenomenon. So even though, let's say you're saying most of the time I eat sugar that doesn't have calories, so that's okay, right? And I'll just have sugar later, and you go to eat a cupcake. Well, this phenomenon is still happening. You didn't really cut out this process happening just because you're eating sugar without calories. All right, so I don't like doing posts or videos that are just kind of scary like that, because I think when I see information like that, it's so easy to get discouraged and think, well, sometimes I eat sugar. What if I'm eating too much? What if I'm eating too much fruit? And I had this in the past, and all of a sudden you're stressed out about your health instead of thinking of the productive things that you can do to improve it. So the rest of this video is how to things that have been shown to help this phenomenon. So there are two things that we're going to talk about. One is the compound quercitin, and then this is a group of compounds, flavonoids, and these are found in vegetables and fruits. So what these two compounds have been shown to do is, when you have Glute 2 here working, it actually inhibits the action of this. So then you are more likely to go back to having to use the SGLT1, the sodium dependent and the active one that can better regulate sugar absorption. So where can you find these things? So quercitin is actually found in pretty high quantities in turmeric. All right, so my favorite ways to eat turmeric, because I like to get, like most of you know, I like to get all this stuff in whole food form. So I use it as a spice, and it goes really well with meats and vegetables that when you're trying to get a savory flavor, because it's a little bit spicy and has this kick to it. The other thing I like to do, as you all know, because I'm so far I've been talking about the Nutrient Bootcamp Challenge that I've been doing. I love tea blends. Tea blends are amazing because you can actually, you're using quite a bit of the turmeric to make the tea blends, and you can buy the tea blends. Or you can buy turmeric in tea bags and just have it. It's kind of spicy and strong on its own. That's why I like to put it in tea blends with things like black tea, and we're actually going to talk about why that's even better. So I like putting it in that because I feel like I'm getting a lot more of this quercetin compound because I'm eating more of the turmeric. Now I also use it to spice my food, but the thing is you're not going to use so much turmeric on your food that you're going to get this huge amount of it. So I actually prefer tea blends, and by mixing them together with other things that kind of temper the flavor, I think it goes really well. Quercetin, let's talk about, the other things that it does really well. Oh my gosh, I can't write. Anti-inflammatory, and in a way, it's been classified as an antioxidant. That is a little bit more of a, it's not as straightforward of an action as an antioxidant, but the anti-inflammatory properties have been demonstrated pretty easily. So then let's talk about flavonoids. All right, so these are a group of, there's actually multiple different flavonoids, but the way that you can most easily get these are in yellow, red, purple, and blue, like blueberries, fruits and vegetables. So fruits and veggies. And there's a lot of these compounds in them, and you can absorb them through the fruit and the vegetables that you eat. The other things that have a pretty high significant amount of flavonoids that you wouldn't expect because they're not these colors, but black tea is a really good source, and green tea is a really good source as well. And that's why I love mixing these things together with different herbs that I like to use, either because they taste delicious, something like lavender, or because of their medicinal properties. But these are a fantastic way that I do it. And just to go back to what we were talking about before, the turmeric and the flavonoids inhibit the action of the Glute transporter, and which minimizes the passive diffusion of glucose into the bloodstream. So when we talk about decrease sugar in the bloodstream, we're talking about more stable energy, good control over your hunger signals, and just feeling a little bit better, because as we know, when you have a sugar high and a sugar crash, we all know what that feels like. It's not a good feeling. So that this is something that can help us avoid that. So I hope that you found this video educational, and please let me know in the comment section if there's anything you'd like me to clarify or talk more about. You can find all of the details, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find all the details on digprimal.com. You can click the link below this video, and if you're watching it in the video post itself on Dig Primal, you can just find all the extra little information that I've added in the post. So have a great day. Thanks.